All right, this is Clark Bosslet with the Owen podcast series. Today we're going to continue our conversation covering Project Pyramid, and I have with me today Professor Bart Victor, who would you say is the faculty advisor for the overall program and in my Mod 1 class.
Right.
So, Professor Victor, can you talk to us a little bit about part of the reason for the second part of this podcast is kind of a bigger picture of this trend of kind of what we're studying, this is sustainability and everything. So
okay, yeah, I'm glad to. It's a program that's very important to me and has been a significant part of my work here for the last 5 years. I think the first thing that is important for those who might be listening to understand about Project Pyramid is that it is fundamentally a student initiative. That is, the reason we have Project Pyramid here at Owen is because the students created the program, not because it was my initiative or the administration's initiative or something coming out of marketing. It was the students who created it. And their creation of Project Pyramid and their inspiration for it really make it something quite unique, and it continues to be so. For me, there are a couple of essential things about Project Pyramid that make it both a vital part of the school and something that is, I think, an important activity for Owen as a community. The first, I think, is that it is about and really grounded in the notion that business has a positive, affirmative role in addressing the problems of poverty. We have historically, and I've been doing this a long time, we have historically, as business people and as business educators and with our business students, have, I guess, subscribed to what is often called the Carnegie bargain. This is from Andrew Carnegie, the notion that first one must do well, and then one can do good. And that's the idea that we have to separate our role as business people, our Monday role, from our role as someone who's trying to make the world a better place, our Sunday role.
Right.
And so that when we engage the poor, when we engage the people in need, that we act with our Sunday hat on.
Right.
The inspiration for Project Pyramid is that no, that bargain isn't completely valid. That there is an important and direct role for the business person as a business person to address poverty. And so we keep our Monday hat on. And that's one of the essential qualities of Project Pyramid. It is about understanding, creating, and actually implementing enterprise-based solutions, responses to the problem of poverty, with the objective to alleviate poverty. Not simply to alleviate its suffering, but actually to eliminate it. Right? And that's a very new, if you will, idea, and it is an inspiration of the students. So I think that's at the core of Project Pyramid. One of the sources of Project Pyramid was an inspiration by a student who had encountered Muhammad Yunus, who was one of our graduates, Vanderbilt graduates. And he encountered Muhammad Yunus, who talked about microlending. For those of you who might not know, Muhammad Yunus created what's called the Grameen Bank. Grameen means village in Bangla, which is the language of Bangladesh. And the Grameen Bank is a micro lender, right? And he won the Nobel Peace Prize. And I think that our students really understand the difference between Muhammad Yunus, who calls himself a banker. He is a business person, right? But he is a business person whom we aspire to emulate, in whose work we are motivated to try and extend and innovate from, as opposed to other people who sell money to the poor, like payday lenders and pawn shops and the like, who certainly are business people legally doing what they do,
but who are culturally villainized.
Yeah, right? But who are culturally villainized and who don't necessarily inspire us.
Right.
Right. We might be impressed by the amount of money that they make, but we're not necessarily impressed by the way that they make it.
Right. And that's more than the pound of flesh that they want.
That's
from us,
right.
or what?
That's right. And we talk. The reference to the pound of flesh is actually from the Merchant of Venice, right? And Shylock, who was disparaged as a usurer,
Right.
For those of you who remember it, the interest rate of Shylock's loan was 0. Right? So it's not the interest rate that makes a difference. The difference is, and the difference between a microlender and a payday lender, right, is that a payday lender and Shylock, right, were hoping for the failure of their borrowers. Right? Shylock hated the man that he made the loan to, and he hoped that he would default so that he could take the pound of flesh. He wanted the collateral. He wanted to destroy the borrower. The business model of a payday lender is importantly built on the failure of the borrower. They make their money on the fees. They make their money on the rollovers. Right? The difference is with a microlender, the business model of a microlender is based in the success of the poor. They make their money on very high repayment rates. They make their money on the success of the borrower. Right? And that understanding that difference then gets generalized to saying, how can we as business people build our models, our business models, effective, real business models that make profit, that are sustainable? How can we build them in ways that are based in the increasing success of the poor, so that the poor are in fact no longer poor? Right? That is, we actually alleviate the poverty. Right. We don't just address the symptom.
I think one of the things that we've talked about a little bit in class is, to date, I think a lot of people see going overseas and doing good as trying to alleviate a symptom, and maybe we're shifting to, if not purely addressing the source, a blend where you might try to alleviate the symptom a little bit, but then you really need to, and we've talked about local sourcing, investing, taking the time, spending the money, and really investing in that community across the entire chain.
Exactly. Understanding that, and this is natural for a business person, right? A business person always understands that ultimately the success or failure of their enterprise is determined in the market. It is determined by the customer. And so you must understand your customer. You must meet the needs, the desires of your customer, and you must do that better than anyone else. And if you do that well, you are successful, as long as you don't spend too much money doing it.
Yeah. Right.
And that is a very different orientation towards understanding the problem of poverty than the traditional charitable or aid model, which sees basically people in poverty as having needs, having deficit, and trying to mitigate the suffering associated with that. So you see somebody hungry, and you provide them with food. You see someone without shelter, and you provide them with shelter. But that it is assumed that need is visible and understandable without ever really having a conversation with them. The difference in Project Pyramid is that we begin with the assumption that everybody, including the poor, have an important understanding for themselves about their needs and their desires, right? And that their success, right, their freedom, if you will, in the terms that Amartya Sen used, which is the substantive freedom, their abilities to live the lives that they would choose, which is what alleviating poverty is about. Alleviating poverty is enhancing the ability of everyone to live the life that they would choose, not the life that I would choose, but the life that they would. That we start there, right? And we try to build enterprises. We try to build real sustainable businesses from a response to, from their real needs and their real desires, right? And in partnership with them. Right? One of the second critical thing about Project Pyramid is that we understand that while business and enterprise is central there, it's not alone. So that Project Pyramid from its very beginnings has involved, and in partnership and in team-based effort, graduate students from across the university. So we have in Project Pyramid class right now, for example, we have medical students, nursing students, education students, divinity students, engineering students, all working together with business students on thinking about how can we better alleviate particular poverty, specific poverties, with specific people in real places. Right? And how do we do that in collaboration together?
Very good. So, and one thought I wanted to at least bring up is the New York Times yesterday just said that domestically, a lot of what we focus on in this class is going to be abroad, but we've talked about the danger of almost this is becoming a tourism for
Yes.
students, and when there is a domestic need, the highest poverty numbers in America since 1994.
Exactly.
Is it selfish of the students to, or reckless to focus their energies abroad when there is a need right in our backyard?
Well, First, Clark, you're absolutely correct that American poverty is real and growing.
Right.
And it is, we don't have to get on an airplane. We don't even have to get in a car here at Vanderbilt to find real poverty. Right. And poverty that ought to motivate us to try to work in partnership with the poor to seek solution. Fortunately, I think, and this again is the students deciding it, not me, not Vanderbilt, nobody else, but the students agreeing with you and saying, we must also focus domestically. So Project Pyramid also has projects right here in Nashville. Right? So we have, for example, just in the next week, a new business is being started through Project Pyramid at Dismas House, which is a transition residence and treatment center for recovering addicts and felons, and it's a T-shirt business, and it's being designed as and imagined as a real sustainable enterprise, but one which is designed also to help these people get back their own freedom, to earn back their abilities to make the decisions to live the lives that they would choose and no longer be poor.
Wow.
And that's happening right here in town.
That's great. So the ultimate takeaway here is this is more than a calling for the soft-skilled, big-hearted among us. We need the engineers, we need the analytics, we need people to come in and look at the numbers.
Project Pyramid was started by a finance student. Okay,
yeah.
It has many engineers and others of the analytics. Now we also have the divinity students.
Yes,
right.
Okay, so both sides of the spectrum.
So we have both sides of the spectrum, and we work together.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we appreciate each other's resources. One of my favorite examples was we were in Bangladesh a few years ago. One of our finance students had the idea. She was very interested in being engaged and working. She traveled all the way to Bangladesh with us, but she wasn't sure that her skills were valued. Until, as we were planning a project, she whipped out her laptop and started building a spreadsheet, and all the other students, particularly the div students and the medical students, were amazed at what she could do. Wow. And she said, wow, what I know how to do is important.
Absolutely.
And valuable.
Absolutely. I would say the breadth of the skill set. Professor Victor, thank you so much for coming on and talking a little bit more about maybe the big picture behind Project Pyramid. And for those viewing, thank you very much for taking the time.